The Senate seems to be taking its time getting ready this morning. The House has already gavelled in. Stay tuned, and we will bring you the House proceedings as soon as the Senate session has ended. And since the Senate is taking its time getting started this morning, we'd like to take you to the West Virginia House of Delegates. Here it is live from the House chamber.
As a delegate representing the 52nd Delegate District to fill the vacancy created by the resignation of the Honorable Larry Williams from this day through the remainder of the unexpired term of said office. Delegate Schaefer took the oath of office as prescribed by the Constitution, May 5th, 2015.
Communication will be received. I would ask that Delegate Schaefer please rise and the House make him welcome as a member and colleague. Clerk has a further letter of resignation.
Dear Mr. Speaker, effective at 2:30 p.m. on this date, I hereby submit my resignation as a member of the House of Delegates from the 11th Delegate District representing Roane and Jackson counties. I have enjoyed serving with you, and I want to thank you for all of the courtesies extended to me during the past year. I look forward to continuing to work with you in my capacity as a state senator and wish you and all members of the staff of the House of Delegates the very best of luck in the future. Respectfully yours, Robert Bob Ashley.
Communication will be received and filed with the clerk. Clerk has a letter of appointment.
Dear Secretary Tennant, pursuant to West Virginia Code, I have this day appointed Martin Rick Atkinson III, Roane County, West Virginia, as a delegate representing the 11th District of the House of Delegates to fill the vacancy created by the resignation of the Honorable Bob Ashley. Sincerely, Earl Ray Tomblin, Governor. Delegate Atkinson took the oath of office as prescribed by the Constitution, October 6, 2015.
Communication will be received. I would also ask Delegate Atkinson to please rise and the House make him welcome. Clerk has a letter of resignation.
Dear Clerk Harrison and Speaker Armstead, I am tendering my resignation to the House of Delegates effective midnight tonight, January 4th, 2016. My reason for resigning is so that I may dedicate more of my professional and personal time towards economic development efforts for Southern West Virginia. I am working with others in an effort to recruit projects to Mingo County and Southern West Virginia. If our efforts bear fruit, they will help our local economy begin to rebound. Being a member of the West Virginia House of Delegates has been an honor for me. During the last 20 years plus, we have seen many changes and improvements in our state. I have been proud to be part of the legislative process. As always, if you need to get with me, please feel free to contact me at my office at the Bank of Mingo or at home. Sincerely yours, H.K. White.
Communication will be received. Filed with the clerk. Clerk has a letter of appointment.
Dear Secretary Tennant, pursuant to West Virginia Code, I have this day appointed Phyllis M. White, Mingo County, West Virginia, as a delegate representing the 21st District of the House of Delegates to fill the vacancy created by the resignation of the Honorable Harry Keith White. Sincerely, Earl Ray Tomblin, Governor. Delegate White took the oath of office January 13, 2016.
Communication be received. I would also ask Delegate White to please rise and the House make her welcome. Clerk has an additional letter of resignation.
You have a resignation. Phillips.
Dear Mr. Speaker, I will be resigning from the House of Delegates effective December 31st, 2015. Sincerely, Linda Good Phillips.
Communication will be received and filed with the clerk. Clerk has a letter of appointment.
Dear Secretary Tennant, pursuant to West Virginia Code, I have this day appointed Frank L. Blackwell, Wyoming County, West Virginia, as a delegate representing the 25th District of the House of Delegates to fill the vacancy created by the resignation of the Honorable Linda Good Phillips. Sincerely, Earl Ray Tomblin, Governor.
Communication will be received, and I would ask Delegate Blackwell to rise and the House make him welcome. Clerk has a letter of resignation.
Dear Mr. Clerk, please allow this letter to serve as my official resignation notice of the West Virginia House of Delegates serving the 51st District. Please accept my resignation effective immediately. Thank you for your kindness and service to the members of the House. It was a pleasure to serve with you. I wish you all the best going forward. Sincerely, Amanda Pasden.
Communication will be received and filed with the clerk. Gentleman from the 58th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request a roll call to determine the presence of a quorum.
Gentleman from the 58th requests a roll call to determine the presence of a quorum. All members in the chamber will please indicate your presence by voting yes or no. Clerk, please prepare the machine. Or vote yes. Clerk, please close the machine. 97 members being present, I declare a quorum of the House present. Gentleman from the 58th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the Speaker be authorized to appoint a committee of 3 to notify the Senate, the that the House of Delegates has assembled in the second regular session of the 82nd Legislature and is ready to enter upon the business of the session.
The gentleman from the 58th moves that the chair be authorized to appoint a committee of 3 to notify the Senate that the House is assembled for this second regular session of the 82nd Legislature and is ready to proceed with the business of the session. Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the motion adopted. On behalf of the House, the chair appoints the gentleman from the 35th, Delegate Stansberry, the gentleman from the 53rd, Delegate Smith, and the gentleman from the 34th, Delegate Boggs, as a committee to notify the Senate that the House has assembled. Gentleman from the 58th.
Mr. Speaker, I move the Speaker be authorized to appoint a committee of 3 to join with a similar committee of the Senate to inform His Excellency, the Governor, that the Legislature has assembled in the second regular session of the 82nd Legislature and is ready to proceed to the business of the session and will be pleased to receive any communication or message he may desire to present.
Gentleman from the 58th moves that the chair be authorized to appoint a committee of 3 to join with a similar committee from the Senate to inform His Excellency, the Governor, that the Legislature is assembled for the second regular session of the 82nd Legislature and is ready to proceed with the business of the session. Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the motion adopted. On behalf of the House, the chair appoints a lady from the 9th District, Delegate Warder Shepherd, the gentleman from the 61st District, Delegate Duke, and the gentleman from the 43rd District, Delegate Hartman, as a committee to inform His Excellency, the Governor, that the Legislature has assembled. Gentleman from the 58th.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the applicable provisions of House Rule 136 relating to privileges of the floor be suspended for the remainder of the day in order to permit members' families and invited guests the privileges of the floor for the remainder of today's proceedings.
The gentleman from the 58th asks unanimous consent that the applicable provisions of House Rule 136 relating to privileges of the floor be suspended for the remainder of the day in order to allow family members and guests privileges to the floor for the remainder of today's proceedings. Is there objection? Chair hears none. The Rule 136 is suspended for the remainder of the day. Gentleman from the 58th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, today we have a citation presentation recognizing Mineral County. To accept the citation, we have county officials and citizens of Mineral County who are escorted to the well of the chamber by Delegates Howe, Rowan, and Allen Evans.
Clerk will please read the citation.
Whereas Mineral County was created on February 1st, 1866 by an act of the West Virginia Legislature, and whereas from its verdant low valleys to the towering backbone of the Allegheny Front, 3,000 feet above the North Branch of the Potomac River, Mineral County lies a stone's throw from Maryland and just a 3-hour drive from Washington, and whereas home of Potomac State College and named for its vast mineral resources, Mineral County was a railroad and coal center at the beginning of the 1900s. The county has an area of 329 square miles and an estimated 2012 population of 27,956. Kaiser is the county seat, and whereas located in the eastern panhandle, Mineral County was part of Hampshire before the Civil War. Local residents were more pro-Union than those living in the eastern part of Hampshire County. Following the war in 1866, the new county was created. West Virginia had become a state just 3 years earlier. And whereas there were skirmishes during the Civil War and towns changed hands several times, usually only briefly, New Creek Station, now Kaiser, was a training camp for Union soldiers from Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois. Mineral County's Y Junction, where the Northwest Turnpike intersected the New Creek Road, now US 50 and US 220, was strategic for troop and supply movements into the Shenandoah Valley. And whereas the present eastern panhandle of West Virginia was known to George Washington, he had crisscrossed the region as a young surveyor and commanded frontier defense during the French and Indian War. In 1755, he ordered a stockade and fort erected in present Mineral County as a defense against incursions by Delaware and Catawba Indians. The original log blockhouse still stands at Fort Ashby, and whereas many immigrants in the 19th century worked their way across the coal fields of Pennsylvania down through Maryland and settled in Mineral County, the area's population reflects a diverse mixture of Mennonites, German Swiss, English, Scots, Italians, and Jews. Even Chinese immigrants found their way to Kaiser in the early 1900s. Elk Garden became home for many Irish, including Flanagans and Fahays, McIntyres and McDonoughs, Kilroys and Keegans, Conlins, Kennys, and Joyces. And whereas perhaps the most prominent historic figure was the industrialist Henry Gassaway Davis, who began as a brakeman for the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad at age 20 and later associated with U.S. presidents. He lived in Piedmont early in his life as a storekeeper and railroad agent. Davis later was elected to the U.S. Senate and ran for vice president in 1904 when he and Democratic presidential candidate Alston Parker lost to Teddy Roosevelt. Davis founded Elkins and owned his own railroad. And whereas Davis' purchase of the famous Big Vein of coal atop the Allegheny Front at Elk Garden led to a local industrial boom from the 1880s into the early 20th century. From 1881 to 1923, 315 acres of coal was mined and 2,000 miners worked at Elk Garden. High-quality semi-bituminous coal from Davis Big Vein was displayed at the St. Louis World's Fair in 1893 and powered Admiral Dewey's fleet at the Battle of Manila Bay. And whereas the arrival of the B&O Railroad, which reached the northern part of present Mineral County in 1842 and arrived at a point across the North Branch from Piedmont a decade later, had a major impact. The railroad increased the population in northern Hampshire County and contributed to the political differences within the county that led to the creation of Mineral County on February 1st, 1866. Kaiser was named for a vice president of the B&O and was a key railroad point from which coal and produce were shipped. Kaiser was selected as the county seat as a compromise between Elk Garden and Piedmont. Kaiser earlier had been known as Paddytown, named for Patrick McCarty of County Tyrone, Ireland, who had settled there in the mid-1700s. And whereas Kaiser today is the region's hub, once home to a B&O roundhouse, its citizens now work in education, agriculture, retail, vocational training, the arts, healthcare, and its small industrial parks. Major employers include Verso in Mineral County and in nearby Luke, Maryland, an Allegheny Ballistic Laboratory at Rocket Center. The opening of Jennings Randolph Lake on the North Branch holds potential for attracting tourists from nearby Baltimore and Washington. And whereas Potomac State College, beautifully situated atop a small hill that once had Fort Fuller, a branch of West Virginia University. Most of the approximately 1,800 students complete their last 2 years at WVU in Morgantown. And whereas several other Mineral County towns have rich histories, Piedmont, closely associated with the nearby Maryland communities of Westernport and Luke, is the hometown of Henry Louis Gates, Jr. of Harvard University, a prominent African-American scholar, frequent commentator, author of many books, and host of a PBS television show. Piedmont once had a roundhouse and machine shops of the B&O, and its people are closely tied to Meade West Vaco at Luke. And whereas Ridgely was Fort Ohio and Fort Ashby, a frontier post, and Dawes Gap is said to be the birthplace of Nancy Hanks, mother of Abraham Lincoln. Therefore, the House of Delegates hereby acknowledges February 1st, 2016 as a day to celebrate and acknowledge not only Mineral County's 150th anniversary, but also to celebrate the vibrancy and contributions made to our state and nation by the people, past and present, of Mineral County, West Virginia, and directs this citation be presented.
Members will please be at ease for a moment so I may formally greet our guests and present the citation.
There is a pause here in the House of Delegates as the Speaker goes to the floor to greet guests from Mineral County who just had a resolution in their honor read in the floor of the House of Delegates.
Gentleman from the 58th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, we have another citation presentation recognizing Monongalia County. To accept the citation, we have county officials and citizens of Monongalia County. Escorting our special guests are Delegates Fritsch, Fleischauer, Kirchaba, Statler, Pethel, and Summers.
Clerk will please read the citation.
Whereas Monongalia County was founded in 1776 after being settled by a small group of people along the banks of the Monongahela River and what is now known as Decker's Creek. From that beginning, it has grown to a present-day population of approximately 100,000 people and growing daily. And whereas Monongalia County is home to West Virginia University, a public land-grant institution founded in 1867 and recognized as a top research university by the Carnegie Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching. WVU welcomes and shapes the minds of students from across the state of West Virginia, every state in the United States, and approximately 100 other nations. And whereas Monongalia County offers recognized top-rated educational experiences at all levels from preschool to graduate programs and senior education opportunities, a competitive and innovative business community, a diversified economy that embraces healthcare, education, technology, energy development, and small business entrepreneurship, a nationally acclaimed economic model, It has become known as a place that offers big city amenities with the neighborly feel of small-town life. And whereas Monongalia County has been recognized in recent years in the following ways: Best Performing Small Metros, Best Small Metros for Business and Careers, Best Quality of Life and Knowledge Worker Metros, Smart Places to Live, Boomtown, Morgantown Top College Destination, Best Places to Retire for Under $100 a Day, Most Secure Small Cities, Adventure Town, Best Small Town to Live, and Best Sports Cities. And whereas in Monongalia County, you can find in your community everything from sports to art galleries, from energy to healthcare, from corporate leaders to our caring nonprofits, from tourism to education, in the scenic mountain home of West Virginia University, and everywhere in between, we affirm that every day is a great day to be a mountaineer. Therefore, the House of Delegates of the West Virginia Legislature hereby acknowledges January 13th, 2016 as a day to celebrate the achievements and contributions of Monongalia County and its citizens to the great state of West Virginia, and directs this citation be presented.
Members and guests, please be at ease a moment while I may greet our guests and formally present the citation.
Whenever the House Speaker leaves the floor, he assigns the Speaker Pro Tem to take his place. That is Delegate Bill Anderson of Wood County, the Speaker Pro Tem, as the House Speaker has to leave the podium in order to tend to business on the floor.
Chair recognizes the Sergeant at Arms.
Mr. Speaker, Senators Blair, Ferns, and Plymel with a Senate message.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are pleased to notify that the Senate has assembled with a quorum present. Organized by the election of the Honorable W.P. Cole III as President and Mr. Clark S. Barnes as Clerk, and is ready to proceed with the business of the session.
Thank you to the committee from the Senate. It's good to know some of you know where you should come back to. So, anyway, thank you. Chair recognizes the Sergeant at Arms.
Mr. Speaker, Delegate Border Shepherd for a message.
Thank you. I'd like to report that we have gone to the governor and we've reported to him that we have assembled and we are ready to conduct business for the 2016 legislature.
Thank you to the members. You've fulfilled your duty and the committee may be discharged. Delegation may be discharged. Just 1 second. Okay. Chair recognizes Sergeant at Arms.
Mr. Speaker, Delegate Stansberry with a message.
He's on the telephone.
Mr. Speaker, the delegation has proceeded to the Senate and has announced that the House has assembled and is ready to proceed with the business of the 82nd Legislature.
To the delegates, thank you for fulfilling your obligations. The delegation may be discharged. Introduction of guests. Gentleman from the 58th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, for our Doctor of the Day program today, we have with us in the back of the chamber Dr. Mitch Jakes of Charleston. He's the medical director for the Doc for the Day program. Would the House please make the good doctor welcome?
Lady from the 16th, Delegate Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of the delegation from Cabell and Wayne County, we have a very special guest and his wife, Delegate Chuck Romine and Phyllis, are in the North Gallery. He's a terrific banjo player, and he served 3 times in the House of Delegates. He served under Governor Arch Moore and Governor Cecil Underwood. Please make him welcome. Stand up.
Lady from the 9th, Delegate Border Shepherd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to introduce today my daughter-in-law's stepfather, who is filing to run as a delegate in the 9th District. His name is Ray Holland, and I'd like you to make him welcome. Please stand, Ray.
Gentleman from the 41st, Delegate Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I have with me my beautiful wife, Jennifer, and our son, Grayson Charles, who was born on November 5th. If the House will please make them feel welcome.
Lady from the 3rd, Delegate Storch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have with us an intern from Marshall University this legislative session. His name is Brady Bowen. He is a senior economics major, and he will be helping with the minor committees. So I would ask if the House would please make him welcome, and if Brady would wave from the back row. Thank you.
Gentleman from the 42nd, Delegate Ambler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to introduce my wife, who's in the gallery up here. Vicki is here, and I want to say thank her for allowing me to be a part of this legislative session. Thank you.
Gentleman from the 60th, Delegate Faircloth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the South Gallery, I have a very special friend with us today, Mr. Gary Kelly, who is also a candidate for the upcoming 60th District House seat. If everybody would make him feel welcome, please stand.
Gentleman from the 14th, Delegate Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Joining us today is the first page of the session is my daughter, Kayla Virgin Butler, and my lovely wife, who's in the South Gallery, Anna Maria Butler. The House make them welcome.
Gentleman from the 4th, Delegate Farrow.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With us today, we have former longtime delegate and current Brooke County Commissioner Tim Ennis. If Tim could stand and let the House make him welcome.
Tim. Gentleman from the 7th, Delegate Ireland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to introduce my wife. For those of you, many of you have already met her, but perhaps some of the newer members have not. She's up here in the gallery and with us today. But one of the things I'd like to point out is that her parents, both living, 94 and 96, will celebrate 75-year anniversary day after tomorrow. And I think that's just extraordinary. So please make her welcome.
introductions. Now I would like to introduce my wife, Anna, who is sitting over where my seat, close to where my seat. And I have in the gallery, in center gallery, my daughter, Katie Armstead Ferrari, and her husband, Aaron Ferrari. The house would make them welcome. Reports of standing committees. Reports of select committees. Messages from the executive. Messages from the Senate. Resolutions.
House Joint Resolution 2 by delegates Romine, Walters, and Rowan. Supermajority required for passage of tax bill amendment.
Gentleman from the 58th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There's a list of carryover resolutions from last session that can be found on the chamber automation system. Members may also obtain a printed copy through the clerk's office. Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the resolutions be considered as formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committee as indicated on the chamber list.
Gentleman from the 58th, ask unanimous consent that each resolution be considered formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committee as indicated on the chamber automation system. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Each resolution will be so introduced and referred. Gentleman from the 58th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There's a resolution at the clerk's desk.
Clerk, please report the resolution.
House Concurrent Resolution 1, extending an invitation to His Excellency the Governor to deliver an address to the legislature and raising a joint assembly therefore.
Gentleman from the 58th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that the committee reference be dispensed with, the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration and put upon its adoption.
Gentleman from the 58th, ask unanimous consent that committee reference the resolution be dispensed with, that the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration and put upon its adoption. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Clerk, please report the resolution.
House Concurrent Resolution 1.
Question for the House is the adoption of the resolution. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the resolution adopted. Clerk, please report the action of the House to the Senate. Pursuant to the resolution, the chair appoints the gentleman from, appoints the gentleman from the 7th, Delegate Ireland, the lady from the 32nd, Delegate Kessinger, and the gentleman from the 19th Delegate District, Delegate Perdue, as a committee to wait upon the governor and escort him to the chamber. Clerk, please communicate the action of the House to the Senate and request concurrence therein. Gentleman from the 58th.
Mr. Speaker, there's a resolution at the clerk's desk.
Clerk, please report the resolution.
House Resolution 1, authorizing the appointment of employees for this, the second regular session of the 82nd Legislature 2016.
Gentleman from the 58th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is the annual pay resolution. It is $135,565,000 less than the 2015 pay resolution. I urge its adoption. I ask unanimous consent to the committee reference be dispensed with, and that the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration, put upon its adoption first.
Gentleman from the 58th, ask unanimous consent that the committee reference to the resolution be dispensed with and be taken up for immediate consideration and put upon its adoption. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Question now before the House is the adoption of the resolution. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Declare the resolution adopted. Gentleman from the 58th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There's a resolution at the clerk's desk.
Clerk, please report the resolution.
House Resolution 2, authorizing printing and distribution of acts of the legislature and journals of the House of Delegates.
Gentleman from the 58th.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent the committee reference be dispensed with and the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration and put upon its adoption.
The gentleman from the 58th asks unanimous consent that the committee reference be dispensed with, the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration and put upon its adoption. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Question for the House is the passage of the resolution. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the resolution adopted. Gentleman from the 58th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There's a resolution at the clerk's desk.
Clerk, please report the resolution.
House Resolution 3 by Mr. Speaker, Mr. Armstead, creating a select committee on prevention and treatment of substance abuse.
Gentleman from the 58th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that committee reference be dispensed with, the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration and put upon its adoption.
The gentleman from the 58th asks unanimous consent that the committee reference be dispensed with, that the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration and put upon its adoption. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Gentleman from the 58th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, there are various bills dealing with substance abuse this session, and as we all know, it is a critically important issue and a priority for this session. This resolution calls for the creation of a select committee of 11 members, combined from various members from different committees, and I urge its adoption. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question for the House is the adoption of the resolution. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Declare the resolution adopted. Petitions. Motions. Bills introduced.
House Bill 2009 by delegates Fass, Duke, Summers, Rohrbach, Borders, Storch, Avon, Romine, and Coles, allowing state police, sheriffs, and fire and emergency service personnel to possess naloxone or other approved opioid antagonist.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 58th.
Mr. Speaker, there's a list of carryover bills from last session which can be found on the chamber automation system. Members can also obtain a copy from the clerk's office. I ask the unanimous consent that the bills be considered as formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committee as indicated on the chamber list.
The gentleman from the 58th asks unanimous consent that the carryover bills be considered formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as indicated on the chamber automation system. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Bills will be so introduced and referred. Further bill introductions.
House Bill 4001.
Gentleman from the 58th.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that further reading of bills introduced be dispensed with and each bill be formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committee as indicated on the chamber automation list.
Gentleman from the 58th asks unanimous consent that further reading of bills introduced be dispensed with, that each bill be considered formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committee as indicated on the chamber automation system. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Each bill will be so introduced and referred. Unfinished business. Bills on third reading. Bills on second reading. Bills on first reading. Gentleman from the 58th.
Mr. Speaker, subject to announcements, I move the House stand in recess until 6:50 p.m. this evening.
Are there announcements? The gentleman from the 64th, Delegate Householder.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Committee on Finance will meet this afternoon at 2 o'clock p.m. for the federal block grant hearing in the Finance Committee room. Tomorrow, Thursday, January 14th, beginning at 9 a.m., the Finance Committee will hear from the Department of Revenue regarding the revenue presentation, and at 1 o'clock p.m., the representatives of the Governor's Office will be making the Governor's budget presentation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman from the 38th, Delegate Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, the Committee on the Judiciary will meet today at 2 p.m. The agenda has been posted, but I don't believe there's any substantive bills. It's just organizational.
Gentleman from the 61st, Delegate Duke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Education will meet today at 2 p.m. in the Education Committee room. The agenda is posted.
Lady from the 31st, Delegate Arbonne.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Government Organization would like to check the availability of the Chamber this Friday morning, January 15th, for a public hearing from 8 to 9.
Chamber is available.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Government Organization would like to announce a public hearing on Friday, January 15th, 2016, from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock a.m. regarding HB 4005, repealing prevailing hourly rate of wage requirements. Also, Mr. Speaker, your Republican members on your Committee on Government Organization will caucus today at 3 o'clock p.m. in the Chairman's office, 213 East. Thank you.
The gentleman from the 51st, Delegate Statler.
Thank you. I'd like to return to introductions. My wife and friend were able to brave the snow from Montague County. We were snowed in yesterday. She's sitting in the North Gallery. My wife, Louie, and good friend, Ethan. I'd like the Chamber to make them welcome. Also, Mr. Speaker, in the way of announcements, I'd like to say that although Montague County did have some snow problems yesterday, and we had some students that was on the bus to 9:30 to 10 last night, I'd like to thank the school system in Montague County for the yeoman's effort that they put out to make sure that those students made it home safely. I would also like to say that while all that was going on, we got Kansas into the mix, the #1 team in the nation, and West Virginia gave them their welcome and sent them home soundly beaten. So I'd like to say that. I would like to also say that after we finish up with our floor session, that the Montague County would like to invite everyone from Mineral County and also all the delegates into the GovOrg room for a great meal is going to be provided by the Pace Enterprises, which is a nonprofit organization in our county that's doing great work. So please, everybody be able to stop by and have a lunch. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The lady from the 51st, Delegate Fritsch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Banking and Insurance will meet tomorrow, Thursday, January 14th at 10 a.m. in the House Government Organization Committee Room. The agenda will be posted.
Gentleman from the 27th, Delegate Ellington.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Health will meet tomorrow at 2 o'clock in Government Org room. The agenda will be posted.
Gentleman from the 53rd, Delegate Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to get back to introductions. I was pushing the wrong button.
Without objections, gentleman may proceed.
I'd like to introduce my wife, Patty, who's in the South Gallery, is with me here today. And if the members would make her welcome. And your Committee on Energy will meet tomorrow, Thursday, January 14th at 2 p.m. in the House Judiciary Committee room. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman from the 66th, Delegate Espinosa. Okay. Thank you. Further announcements. Gentleman from the 1st, Delegate McGee.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Liberty Caucus will be meeting briefly in room 226 at 1:30.
Gentleman from the 10th, Delegate Azinger.
Speaker, on behalf of Delegates Fast and Kirchhoff, I just want to announce the formation of a prayer caucus this year. We'll be meeting 10 minutes before each session at my desk, and everyone is welcome. It'll be nonpartisan, though the prayers may not be. So anyone that wants to come, we'd love to have you. And it's going to start informally right here, and we'll just have a word of prayer before each session. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Gentleman from the 24th, Delegate Phillips.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to make a few comments. First of all, welcome everybody back. Last session, I stood right here with my little iPhone in my hand, and I said, reality. I talked about the mines, the coal. Alpha was over $100 a share. Arch, over $90 a share. A few years prior to that, and at that time, Arch was down to 91 cents, Alpha down to 94 cents. As you know, this past Monday, Arch filed bankruptcy. Alpha filed bankruptcy back earlier last year, back in the summer. Synergy has filed. Patriot's filed. There's other companies getting ready to file. Rock Springs Development down in Wayne County. I'm a salesman in the coal industry. If y'all been here long enough, you probably have ate my food. I like to cook. There's 450 men that worked at that mines. I fed them numerous times at their annual retraining. I looked at them eye to eye. There's over 60 million tons of recoverable coal left in the ground right now. The mines was over 25 miles underground. I've been under that mines. I've walked those belt lines with those men. Now today, last month, let me say, I went down to look at a motor to purchase. And it broke my heart to see that parking lot plumb full of equipment. They pulled everything out. Ladies and gentlemen, that mines will not be gone back into. It's heartbreaking. You go in there and you listen to the few guys that's there just trying to ship the stuff out. It's remarkable. Earlier that day, I was down in Wise County, Virginia, looking at some motors at Alpha's equipment depot. Over 115 miners sitting on this field, over 134 buggies, over 100 scoops, over 100 pinners on this piece of property. Why? They shipped it out because they couldn't afford to set the equipment here, hoping and praying that the coal market would come back. They're down there trying to save what little they can. It's heartbreaking. Since Obama has been in office, over 411 coal-fired power plants have shut down. The Gazette said the other day that there's 68 mines in West Virginia. Not many years ago, we had over 400 in West Virginia. The 68's wrong. That might be 68 active permits. There's less than 34 coal mines producing coal in this state right now. And I think our budget, I know the forecast is probably 350 million shortfall. I think you're going to have a little bit more than that before it comes. He said last night, I didn't listen to it. I don't want to listen to him. Imagine that. Global warming and everything. I'm sorry, it's not there. There's some other stuff in there hidden. Hopefully in 50 years we'll find out what it is. I won't be here. But anyway, a friend of mine told me, Rupee, the train has left the station. Ladies and gentlemen, when that train leaves, I'm going to make sure it's got a load of coal in it. It's not leaving empty. And then on the other side of things, you know, there's two things dear to my heart, and that's coal and guns. Again, he tries to grab our guns. Well, I tell you what, for those of you that don't support guns, come and see me. I've got a sticker to go on your bumper so you can let everybody know that you don't support guns. Because by God, I do. And when I leave here today, I'm going to go down to Two Doors Biscuit and get a biscuit.
Okay. Further announcements. Gentleman from the 58.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a reminder to the members to stay in the chamber following tonight's State of the State address. There is further business to conduct here in the House of Delegates. Thank you.
Gentleman from the 66, Douglas Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Small Business Entrepreneurship and Economic Development will meet tomorrow morning, January 14th, at 10 a.m. in the House Education Meeting Room. The agenda will be posted.
Thank you. To the members, following up on the announcement by the gentleman from 58, we will, if we could just allow the governor this evening to exit after his speech, allow the senators to exit, and then if we can all kind of take our seats, it won't be just a few minutes, but we do have a few matters of business we need to take up, receiving the budget. So if we could, as soon as the governor and the senators have vacated the chamber, if we could return to our seats and we'll call our regular session back into session and take care of the business we need to do. Further announcements. Not the question before the House is the motion by the gentleman from the 58th that the House stand in recess until 6:50 p.m. this evening. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. As appear to have it, the ayes do have it. Declare the House in recess until 6:50 p.m.
You're tuned to coverage of the West Virginia Legislature on the West Virginia Channel. We will be unable to provide you with coverage of the state Senate today. The Senate had audio problems all morning long, and we were unable to hear any of the business in the Senate, so we cannot bring you today's Senate session. We hope to bring you that tomorrow when the Senate and the House gavel in at 11 o'clock. On this opening day, not much in the way of legislation on the floors, but I think you will get a sense of what you can expect to see from this legislature and our legislative coverage on the West Virginia Channel for the next 60 days. It has been announced that there will be a public hearing in the House chamber this Friday at 8 a.m. regarding House Bill 4005 to repeal the prevailing wage. Look for live coverage of that public hearing here on the West Virginia Channel. And that concludes today's broadcast of the West Virginia Legislature. We will be back tomorrow morning at 11 with more action from the floors of the State Senate and the House of Delegates. This program is also available on our website, wvpublic.org. This program reminder, certainly the State of the State address by Governor Earl Ray Tomblin will be presented on West Virginia PBS, the West Virginia Channel, on public radio, and on wvpublic.org tonight beginning at 7 p.m. Also, another program reminder, the Legislature Today, our nightly broadcast of legislative news and information, airs at 6:30 and 11:30 every weeknight on West Virginia PBS. That program will begin on Monday, January 18th. The Legislature Today will also be repeated weeknights at 10 and weekday mornings at 6:30 here on the West Virginia Channel. I'm Beth Voorhees. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow at 11.